All right, everyone. Welcome to Digital Conversations. I am your host, Billy Bates. Today, I am joined by Cole Rieben, Director of Digital Marketing at Aptive. Cole, thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. We're gonna talk about some interesting things, especially around how you work with Aptive, which is traditionally like an industry that's very like door to door, belly to belly sales, to more of a digital approach. But before, tell her a little bit about your background.
So my interest in the digital space, especially search, happened back in high school. It's kind of a fun story. Back in about 2003, I was sitting in a class next to my buddy, and we thought, hey, let's see who's more popular. We both played on the football team. We both had stats out there on we have this network, Max Preps, that we had our stats on, and we're like, let's Google our names and see who has the longest list of stats. And we thought it's just a typical thing. Anyway, he looked up his name, I looked up my name, and the first result on my name was not a football stat. It was an article that the Spokesman Review, which was I was up in Northern Idaho, out of Spokane, Washington.
Yeah.
That the title says sex offender moves to North Idaho. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? And of course, by then I made a big deal out of it. The whole class is right next to my computer. And I was shocked. I read through it. What had happened was I had a relative that was a registered sex offender and share the same last name. And what this news article did was actually mention supposedly he was going to be moving to Idaho, and mentioned me and my sister in this article.
Oh.
And so I thought immediately, okay, I got to contact the network. I've got to get them to take this article down because it is not tied to me whatsoever. And nobody got back to me. And I was so frustrated. Parents were about to go and file a lawsuit. Like it was not fun. And I thought, I'm going to take matters in my own hands. And I realized at that same moment when I Googled myself that I did not have much about me out there. I think I had a MySpace back then and a Facebook page. And that was it. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to create a bunch of profiles. So I started with like a Prezi profile, and I took all of my presentations I did that year in high school and I put them in that. I did an About Me page. I just created all these profiles. And after the first couple of days, I was like, oh man, this isn't working. Still seeing that article be number one. I was applying for schools, and it was a big deal to me. And within about 2 weeks, it stayed high up there, but I started seeing some of my profiles come above it that I was creating. And within about 3 weeks, it was buried to the third or fourth page when I Googled my name. And my sister, hers still showed up on first result. So I kind of used that as a gauge of if I was doing anything that was working. At that point, I realized, like, through this reputation management side, hey, this search algorithm's interesting. It's and obviously can be manipulated. And I didn't feel any harm done because obviously there was slander against my name that wasn't approved by me. So anyway, it was an interesting experience that first got me started in digital. And then I knew out of college that I wanted to get involved with search. And I ended up going into the sales side where I was selling these packages. And I was not happy about the results of what I was selling. I'd go and try to re-up our local businesses, and they were saying, hey, this website's not working. Hey, the PPC program's not working. And I would go back to where it all started, and we were outsourcing it overseas. And I thought, well, I wish I could do this myself, but I don't know how to. And so soon after that, I decided I'm going to go agency side and learn all of this from scratch. And that's when I moved to Utah and got started with 97th Floor, and learned so much there, and learned I really cling to technical SEO, and yeah, so that was kind of my upbringing into digital. And those 4 years at 97th Floor agency side were crucial for me to learn exactly, how do I make the most out of a digital presence?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That dude, that was the last thing I expected you were going to tell me, is what got you interested in digital, that whole story. So, so with that, what got you from to green with?
So yeah, about 2017 or 18, 2018, I was actually working at Vivint, and I had a neighbor of mine who for months was kind of not pestering me, but he was pretty relentless about, hey, you should come check out the stuff at Aptive. His brother was the CEO, is the CEO today, Vess Pearson. So his brother, Drew, is my neighbor. And he said, yeah, you should go check this out. And I just kind of shrug it off. I wasn't super interested at first. And then it started to become appealing the more I started to kind of see Aptive pop up here and there. So I went and talked with Vess, and he said, yeah, we just started these PPC campaigns. Our CTO is running them, and they are driving leads, and those leads cost less than what we're doing on door to door. So I think we want to start digital. You want to come along and start it? And I said, well, hold on a sec. Let me pull some data and kind of see what this looks like. And as I did some research, it didn't take long to realize that the grass was green, and the opportunity was huge to be able to, at that point, the company was about just under 200 million in revenue, in annual revenue. And so this door-to-door force was doing such a phenomenal job. But the cost is high, and that model is it's a very expensive model, and for profitability takes a while to be profitable. And so taking a digital strategy helps you get profitable quicker, though it takes that upfront investment. And that was the benefit from the very beginning. As it was obvious to the founder, Dave, and to CEO, Vess, that, hey, this is an investment up front. Usually we're used to paying on the back end with door to door. And, we have a customer by the time we're actually paying out on that customer. Where with digital, we're spending up front, lower spends, but we're actually spending up front for the first time. And they never batted an eye. They had complete faith, and them not knowing much about digital at all. And that faith was really the catalyst to what we've been able to create today.
Awesome. So once you got started there, building out that program from scratch, like, where did you start? What did you start doing, man? What was step number one?
So step number one was, there was a website. Unfortunately, the website was built on Angular. And so it was not really great for search engines, even though that is a Google offering. That's what Google uses. But it's application based, and so it's not very functional for bots ultimately. And so I knew my first thing was, let's redo the website, but that's a long process. So I thought, okay, got to create content, get a website rebuilt, but in the process, I need to stand up some performance pages, probably on a separate domain, that I can actually start driving leads today. So while I was doing this project of rebuilding the website, and the goal wasn't to create something sexy yet, it was more of, technically, I've got to have a website that's functional, it's fast. I mean, and even they built it in Python, it was still like a 3-second, 4-second load time, which is just too much. And so anyway, building the website, simultaneously, I hired a company to stand up another subdomain on another platform where we were able to just spin up pages inside of 24 hours and drive PPC campaigns. So I stood up PPC, and then straight from PPC for quick lead gen, I went the demand gen route and hired a bunch of companies selling leads in the space and built some platforms with them. I partnered with some and said, hey, let's stand up some generic pest control websites, and went that route. And then I also went with people who are already driving leads and got into the to the lead buying and also media buying space really quick, which pest control was still pretty newbie in the space. Still today, it's actually, I came from home security just before that, or smart home. And, that over the last 10 years, there's been a large evolution in digital presence and performance on that side. And then to come to pest control and kind of see this almost archaic landscape of competitors. You've got large competitors that have been around for a very long time, and they're still figuring out digital. And so I was able to identify these gaps, and those gaps, like companies not trying YouTube, not trying bidding on Sunday. These gaps that I was able to find were pivotal for starting a program and finding those low-hanging fruits. And they helped me forecast, hey, what can digital provide on the form of acquisition? What can we project to see in acquisition on the customer side, as well as revenue overall over the next couple of years, and what's the trajectory? And so I started with those gaps, and then I was able to, because I was able to identify those gaps, I was also able to see seasonality. I was able to see competitive market share, and I knew exactly, I could learn quickly where my cliffs were in my spend, and pivoting, daily bidding, and I say but I needed a team to be able to help do that. So between hiring vendors and bringing an in-house team, we've been able to discover a lot of things and really start to, I think the first time it kind of resonated, early on, my very first month, I forecasted how many services we would have, and we hit it on the dot. And then the other validation was when I started seeing Orkin and Terminix copying us. that was actually very validating. And to start to see that you have this, you start bidding on Sunday, or you start bidding in these certain areas, and you start to see your competitors follow suit, that you're spending enough to make them notice and to make them feel it a little bit. And that wasn't the purpose of the spend. The purpose was to go and get leads wherever I could. But it was validating.
Let me ask you, you're driving lead, getting off the web, you start the door in the sales approach. So what were you doing with the leads? What's the process after you get them? Did they already have a team, or did you have a sales team?
Yeah, great question. The door-to-door sales force at Aptive is phenomenal, first class ultimately. And I don't just say that because I work for Aptive. I've been able to observe them. I've been able to stack them up against what I've seen at Vivint, and just stellar. But to utilize that level of sales is expensive. And so it was important that we create, and they're used to a short season, mind you, and I need to have an extended, a full 12 months. And so some of them came on board that were doing door to door and decided, hey, no, I want to have something a little bit more steady. I want to be able to buy a home in Utah, live in Utah. And then others, Tony Balif was here already, and he was already driving leads through an email campaign that he would go and retarget via email customers who were sold at the door but never actually received a service, so they canceled sometime in between that time frame, and it was fairly successful. So he took on the sales role and started building this team. We together went and found software from CRM to a phone software that we could use right off the bat. We ended up going with ClickPoint Sales Exec, and then we've transitioned since then. But yeah, we knew we wanted to send these to a call center. So at first it was all direct phone calls. Once we started forms, he started a setters team, and so now today it's kind of broken down between setters and we've got our closers, if you will, on the call floor. But it's all generating the call center here at Aptive.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So how's the team, is that where the team is right now? How have things continued to evolve as you've done this?
Yeah. So that first half of year that I started, I think that sales team grew to about 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year we came out with our forecasts and needed to hire, I want to say about 20. And then today, I believe we're staffed up to about 60 to 70, wow, just on the sales side. What it also necessitated, so that was even an incubator for what was stood up later was a customer solutions call center. We had our customer solutions out in the branches across the country. It would just be 1 or 2 people in a branch, and it was so each one would be siloed. They're all doing customer solutions at different degrees and using different lingo, it was just so sparse. And so that got brought in-house, and using that same software at first, we brought on some more roles to go sustain a call center there. But it was kind of cool that the sales side was almost an incubator for, hey, can we make this work? Can we hire the right people? Can we get the metrics that tell us what, are we efficient on the phones? And sure enough, it was successful.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So you guys, man, you've come a long way. Let me ask you this, if, somebody's looking and they're saying, okay, I'm going to help a company like make this digital transformation for sales and marketing, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. My advice would be to don't focus as much on where you've come from. It didn't help me to know, okay, this company is door to door. This is how they do things. That would only slow me down. If I were to say, hey, this is how you close a sale at Aptive. This is how a customer is created in a system. All it would do would roadblock where we were going, because they were learning still. They were archaic in certain systems. And so it's all about speed. And it's about, hey, what most viable product may not be what I want it to be in 6 months, but let's get something up now and let's prove it. Because when you want to transform something, you've got to drive ROI. You've got to get revenue streaming to be able to prove, okay, we're doing something. We're moving in the right direction. Now it's time to increase velocity. And so with us, for example, I knew that there was this number up in the air of how efficient we wanted to get that cost of acquisition, but nobody really knew. And the more I dove into things, it's obvious, and it was explained. I explained it to everyone from day one. What acquisition costs are today is not what it's going to be next year, and it's not what it's going to be the year after that. We're going to continue to get efficient. This year, for example, is our first year jumping into branding, brand awareness. We started off with some pretty big sponsorships this year. We just announced our sponsorship with Tony Finau. We just announced our sponsorship with Zach Wilson, and he's got the draft today. We're excited about that. And we've got tons of content and campaigns tied to that to kind of add to that exposure. We've got other things in the works that connect even more to our customer base, to establish brand. As those things get going, once again, when I'm stacked up in a search result on a SERP, and you see Terminix, Orkin, Aptive, before Aptive's not even a question. I'm going to click on these two that I recognize. But as we build brands, we're going to get those clicks, which is going to drive down costs. Once again, continuing to drive efficiencies on the cost side. And so at first, it's going to be more expensive, but you can absolutely showcase how efficient that machine can come over time. And the optimizations are everywhere. Optimizing from the sales side, optimizing from the lead gen side, optimizing from the service side. Are we closing? Are we actually not just driving acquisition, but are they retaining? And so retention is a huge metric for us. And so those optimizations are everywhere. Start with proving it out, and then moving forward to driving efficiencies.
Awesome, man. Awesome, Cole. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us. If people want to contact you and continue the conversation, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
I'd say LinkedIn. Just find me on LinkedIn, Cole Rieben, Aptive. And that's probably the best way to get a hold of me. I'm pretty, while I'm not like posting all the time, I'm a LinkedIn stalker. So definitely on there enough. So.
All right, Cole. Well, thanks so much, and we'll chat later, man.
Okay. Thank you.